4 months into Trump, inflation is in full retreat and wages are soaring at the fastest pace since May of 2021, back when pandemic labor shortages were pumping artificial wages. The good news comes from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, who reports that personal income last month rose $210 billion, a 10% annualized rate. That follows strong numbers in Trump's previous 3 months, doubling the rate of income growth compared to Biden's last year. The income number blew away Wall Street expectations. In fact, it was triple what the market expected, perhaps because Wall Street's Bloomberg terminals told them Orange Man bad. Even better, inflation came in at just 1.2% annualized on the Fed's preferred index, the PCE. That's also half Joe Biden's final year. It's actually 1/5 Joe Biden's final month. Put them together, and in 4 months, Trump has made up over half the income losses of Biden's 4 years. The biggest number last week was the trade deficit, which collapsed by half to just $88 billion, down from $162. This drove the Fed's GDP model to now predicting 3.8% GDP growth for this quarter, which is very good. Now, you may recall just a few weeks ago, GDP was negative, and I said, don't worry. Well, this is why. That negative print was partly falling government spending, which is good for growth since government was wasting it, but it was mostly tariff front-running, companies importing ahead of Trump's big, beautiful tariffs. That matters because imports mechanically subtract from official GDP numbers, but companies import stuff because they plan to sell it, at which point it turns into future GDP, either consumption from cars to clothes to pool floats, or investment from imported tractors and backhoes to industrial machinery. Now, media, of course, ran with the negative number because they have a story to sell, and they figure the audience will forget when that 3.8% GDP comes in. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Most of Trump's economic agenda is rocket fuel for incomes. So cutting taxes, cutting red tape, cutting government spending, all boost production and return resources to the American people where they can do something useful. Meanwhile, deportations mean American workers do not have to compete with third world wages. Even tariffs, which usually don't boost wages, are currently pulling in historic rates of foreign investment, $5 trillion in just 4 months. That would double investment in the American economy and drive up wages for American workers building factories and infrastructure. And if Trump can actually close some trade deals, it could permanently drive up wages. More could be done, of course. Democrats and their pet judges are doing everything they can to block deportations. Rhinos in Congress are doing everything they can to keep government spending trillions while the American people do without. But Trump doubling income growth and cutting inflation in half is pretty impressive for 4 months, especially with zero help from the Fed or Congress. The main concern from here is government spending. If rhinos in Congress don't cut, it could drive inflation back up, returning us to the Biden-era treadmill of incomes trying or failing to outrun prices. There's some hopeful signs from the Senate, with fiscal conservatives demanding more spending cuts out of the big, beautiful budget. If that happens, we're in store for a lot more big, beautiful numbers on the economy. A new episode of the Roundup podcast just dropped. Search Peter St. Onge wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.